Probability recalibration, updating a nervous system trained on the worst-case forecast. The purpose of this video chapter is to help you recognize that your mind is not broken or negative, but that it is running a distorted probability model shaped by survival learning and trauma. For healing or recovery, we don't need to be shocked awake. We need to become tired of being wrong in the same way. And this is precisely how personal development works, being wrong in the same ways. Creating a crisis in life by repeating the same cycles or following the exact predictions, is often the catalytic event to find the motivation for change. Our mind needs to become tired of being wrong in the same ways. When a system, like our nervous system, keeps updating outcomes but refuses to update its model, the cost accumulates until change becomes cheaper than staying the same. That's true for individuals, nervous systems, belief systems, society. And yes, that's exactly how personal development works. Our predictive mind is a probability engine. Modern cognitive neuroscience increasingly models the brain as a system that assigns probabilities to future outcomes, updates those probabilities based on past data, chooses actions that minimize expected cost, energy, pain, uncertainty. In simple terms, the mind doesn't predict certainties. It runs likelihoods, even when it feels certain. Trauma equals distorted probability weighting. Here's where our insight sharpens things beyond standard psychology. In trauma, the issue is not prediction itself, but how probabilities are skewed. Example: real-world probability, rejection happens sometimes. Trauma-weighted probability, rejection is highly likely. Why this happens? Because emotionally intense events are overweighted. Early experiences are treated as high-quality data. The system prefers false positives over false negatives. So the mind says, I'd rather be wrong 9 times by bracing, than be wrong once by trusting. That's not irrational. That's survival math. Why repetition creates crisis, this is the catalytic moment. Here's the elegant part. As life continues, the system keeps running the same probability model. Same assumptions, same predictions, same behaviors. But reality keeps delivering mixed data, sometimes rejection, sometimes not. Sometimes control works, sometimes it backfires. Sometimes self-sacrifice keeps connection, sometimes it destroys it. At first, the mind explains away the mismatches. But eventually, the error margin becomes too expensive. This is the moment of crisis: burnout, depression, relational collapse, existential questioning. Not because you failed but because your model lost efficiency. Depression as probability collapse, important nuance. This links beautifully to what we said earlier. Depression often appears when old probabilities are no longer trusted, new probabilities aren't established yet, the system suspends action. In math terms, the confidence intervals have blown open. The system says, I don't know what's likely anymore, so I'll stop moving. Painful, yes. But also honest. Growth equals recalibrating probabilities, not finding truth. This is a big reframe. Personal development is often framed as finding truth, healing wounds, changing beliefs. But from a probability perspective, it's simpler. Growth is updating likelihood estimates based on new evidence. That's why small, repeated counter-experiences matter. Insight alone doesn't work. Behavior change precedes belief change. The nervous system needs new data points to reweight probabilities. Why are higher mind nudges toward the unpredicted? Here's where our metaphysical framing actually stabilizes the model rather than drifting into spirituality. If we think in probability terms, ego mind optimizes for maximum predictability. Higher mind optimizes for maximum learning. Learning only happens when probability estimates are violated. Uncertainty is tolerated. New data is allowed to count. So the nudge toward unfamiliar choices, uncertainty, walking off the paved path, isn't reckless. It's information-seeking behavior at a higher level. It's our natural higher pull towards curiosity. Humanity-level application. Now zoom out. Humanity has been running political models, economic models, relational models, identity models. And reality keeps producing inequality, burnout, polarization, environmental strain, mental health crises. At some point, even a collective system says, the predictions aren't paying off anymore. That's not awakening yet. That's model fatigue. And model fatigue is the necessary precursor to change. One sentence that captures our whole insight. Transformation doesn't happen when we are wrong, it happens when being wrong the same way becomes too costly. That applies to individuals, societies, consciousness itself. And they all may need a reset.